can use like multiple times. We can use that, but ID we can use only one time. Like there should be only one ID in your web page. There shouldn't be like 2 or 3. There should be only one ID. And another thing, what we learned, anchor tag. Yeah.
Can you explain what you said to him? I think that the CSS class, like in hierarchy, that you have to put the CSS link down on the bottom instead of top. And then the headers.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What he did is like he used his okay. I can add something.
Then we're gonna learn today or something.
Yeah, we learned that later on. Okay.
I'm not sure. I thought
Because yeah, he used Bootstrap. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll learn that later on, so you don't have to think much about that. And also we learned about anchor tag. Does anyone know what does anchor tag do? A tag, anchor tag, A tag, yeah.
Is the link, and when we want to make a link in our web page, we use this, and we should give the address to the tag as a properties here. So,
Yeah. Cool. And what did we learn?
Hi guys. Sorry, coming a little bit late.
We have the presentation on Slack.
Slack. Not yet.
It was from last or like new Slack?
It was the last week. It was class 10.
Yeah, class 10.
No, this
No,
is
it's the mentors.
This is the mentors. Okay, future, week 2, class, presentation, Control S, and here we go. Okay, so we have done the homework, like all of us. Who didn't do it? No one? Okay, cool. So we didn't have time to review it, but usually we review each student's homework. We review all the code, HTML, CSS, and file structure. And we give like a private feedback. So I will send each of you like a private feedback about the homework. I was thinking like I reviewed like 3 homeworks. One of them is Azin. And I was thinking of we can like have this an example today and we work on it to improve it a little bit. We see the gaps, if it's okay with you. We're learning, so. So as it is, I choose it because there is like small things we can improve, we can add, and we can learn from. For today's class, we will talk about Hack Your Future, week 2. So these are the topics. We got the presentation. We need a recap and questions. So if you have any questions.
We did that.
Yeah. It's done, right?
Yeah, that is done, I think.
And then we have to talk about the responsive web development and all the technology. So we are focusing mainly on CSS today. Like we are almost done with HTML, which is usually easy, doesn't take time. And you will improve your skills in HTML by time, like by practice. But the main thing, the most important thing is CSS, because if you have a page that doesn't look good, so people wouldn't like it. It wouldn't be usable for them as well. So we will focus on CSS now. Okay, so we start by CSS. What's the difference between HTML and CSS?
I can't talk about CSS because someone just explained.
It's just for styling, that's the thing. So we have like HTML and CSS and JavaScript. That's the web, that's the whole programming you are talking about like now for front-end development. CSS, it's not a programming language. We can call HTML as programming language because...
Are you recording it?
I think so. Yeah. So we can say HTML is a programming language because it's a language in the end, but CSS is not. CSS just we use it to style our web page. The main purpose of, of it is the presentation of the web page. When we talk web page, it's not just the websites. In the future, you will design an email because emails, if you got emails, marketing emails from companies, they are all as well HTML and CSS. So there's a way to design it. It should be follow something called visual identity of the company. So you can do it for making a presentation. For example, we are using like PowerPoint now, but you can make a presentation with HTML and CSS as well. So there is many uses, but the main purpose is styling. This is the selectors. We talked about it. So we have an item or a HTML element. We write it as our selector. We have something called property and a value. And each element or selector could have more than one property and value pairs. Anyone has problem with selectors? We will talk a little bit more about them now. So as for selectors, selectors are usable, reusable. So if I have 3 buttons here, usually what do we do? At first we are using 2 classes. The button class, I will just say the width and the color white, but you cannot see any one of them white. This is the common style. So all the 3 buttons have the same style. So I put it on the button. Then I will say button 1, I'm using another class. Button 1 is green, second blue, third purple. Easy? There's something called CSS selector combination, because selector, we are focusing on selectors because it's the most important thing in CSS. You need to select this item. So for now, it's easy for you because the tree, the HTML tree is so simple. For example, here you will have an article and there is an H2 inside it. So you will say just article space H2, so you are selecting H2. But what if the tree is too deep? There is so many in-depth items inside it. So you need to learn more about selectors. This applies as well for JS or JavaScript, because in the end you need to select an item in order to move it, to play with it. So here we say selector 1 and selector 2, and there is a period between them. What does it mean, this one? Does anyone know?
Sorry, it's okay. Can you repeat that question?
So we have h1 with a class large heading. If I said h1 dot large header and font size 200, what does it mean? What I'm selecting? So
I think it means the H1 that use the large header class.
that's right. So if I have, for example, here I'm having so many h4s. So we have a lot of h4, but I need to select a specific one. This one should be red, for example. How can I select it? So I will say h4 with the selector or with the class of large heading. So it's more specific selecting like that. Another example here for using the ID, we said like 99% of your time you will use classes. Don't use IDs. Why? Because a class, we can use it for many elements. We can reuse it. The ID is specific. We use it just for one element. Usually in development, where do we use IDs? For example, here, the article. I will name the whole article. I will give it an ID. So ID main article. So by doing that, instead of saying article, because maybe there is more than one article, so I would say like the main article or CV article. Then I will select, after the CV article, I will start selecting the other elements inside it. Let's see it on CSS. So I will start saying, like here, there's the h2 with the ID of big blue and the class large blue. By doing this, I'm saying I want to have the element with the ID of big blue and large blue. So I'm deciding on two selectors. It's more specific, so I wouldn't miss. So what we usually do here is I'm getting this one down to see my selector. So I will say CV article with the hashtag. If I say, I quit smoking, so I'm like, I cannot breathe now. So if I said like background red, so I will see all of it red. But now I can say CV article, then I wanna decide on something else. For example, professional. So I'll say class head. Then I'll say dot head. So it will be just this one. And from now on, I will be like CV article. Then I will decide on something else. And why it's useful? Like usually you can say article, and then you can say H2. It's useful because in the future, when you want to come back to this CSS, you want to see what's this styling. So it's easier for us to remember, to reuse the whole CSS sheet. That's why each of them would be like that. There is best practice about CSS we will talk about, and about HTML, which called commenting. You have to put comments on everything. So when you start here, for example, I'll show you an example of a project I have done. So to see like how the CSS should work. Balance, salary makers, div, design. Don't say. Commenting is very important because you will work with other developers. You never work alone. If you are working alone, it would be okay without commenting, but for you to remember it. For example, here, if you see the file, like this is the file. I closed all the sections I have, but you can expect to have, like when you see the website, to have a header, and then there is 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, and there is the naming. Can you see, like here I started the header section. If you open it, there is the nav bar. This is the depth I'm saying, like you could go more depth with your website. So in the end, I'm saying end header section. So I know it's the end here. But imagine this file without comments, it will be a mess because this file is quite big. Like if you are expanding all of them.
You can select when you open an element, you can see also where it's ended.
Yeah, you have to put like an end with it and a start. This is the best
Just
practice.
Try to show them, because if we are select, for example, div, and open div, yeah.
This?
Just select div.
This one.
No, the application, the visual code shows where it's ending.
Yeah, but we are talking about something helping now.
Okay, sorry.
Maybe you will work on something. There's something about HTML. HTML could work with any code editor. So we are using code editor now, but we can use something else. We can use any text editor.
Which is not very helpful.
Yeah, so if I said like open with, we need like text edit. So I have like, is this HTML?
It's open to like.
It's to,
It is like converting to Notepad maybe.
Notepad? Where is it?
You don't have it?
No. Yeah, but if you open it on Windows on a like a normal, what is it called, text edit, Notepad, so you will see it very without any colors, without any divs. That's the thing. We don't rely on the features of the code editor. We have to do everything by ourselves. If you go to GitHub, for example, now, and go to some homework, you will see just the file without anything. For example, this homework, it's the same as well.
Only the code without.
So you will see only the code. You will understand it more and read it like more if there is commenting. For the CSS, for example, let's say, where's my CSS? It's here, vendor CSS. I will start by something called table of contents. Like if you start with a paper, with a document you wanna go give it to someone, you start with a table of content to make people understand what does this document have. So I would say like the project name, it's all commenting. Project name, the version, table of content. For example, at first I have the global styles. We start by global, we style everything we have. So I have like the general styling, the text color, the text font, what's the font family, because it's coming from the designer. Everything from the designer, we put it here. Then we start by custom styling. So navigation, hero, then there's a problem here. But as you see here, global styles, general styling, this is applied for everything. Then you go down, and you see, there is style for everything and it's number. So I will know where I am now. Try to comment everything. Don't over comment. Don't put like everything. It's necessary. If it's necessary, you will put it. Tomorrow in JavaScript, you will start writing a long comment like, you should fix this if you want to change something. So you will send a message to a future developer by commenting. Comments is very important. Okay, that's it. Let's go back to SE. H2. Any question about comments?
I have a question and problem at the same time. If you go to any of the assignment, like the one you just have been open.
Like
Yeah, or this one. If you go down.
down?
Yeah. I have problem just consistency. If you can see like this, so when I'm writing my code, so going left and right and this, so I don't know like.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
So
so
here,
like-
for example, let's fix this a little bit. Like we are spending now a little bit time over, but we are learning something. For example, here we're starting by nav. What should the nav be wrapped with? As in,
Like this or.
what's the first element in your page? The called header. So I'll say header. I will put like a class main header usually. Okay, when I put something like that, can you see? It's not consistent. So I will see the body, there is this line. So I will put my cursor here and say tab, tab. So I will have it here. Then the nav is inside it. So I will put it another tab. Now there is a space here we don't need. It's all for us, for readability. So there is this div inside the nav. But it has two spaces, which is not readable. So I will say shift tab, you go back, tab, you go front. So shift tab, I will go back. Then inside this div, there is div. Everything is all right now. There is this one as well, shift tab. So now when you read this one, it's more readable. You know that there is body, the header inside the body, the nav inside the header, the div inside the nav. Now image and div are siblings. The relation between image and div are parent to child, but now we have these as siblings. We have div, there is 4 childs inside it, and we continue on. So what's optimal to do here is by the start here, I will put a comment. I will say main header. And then I will go down to the end. I will put another comment. I will say end main header. And then I will go like that. So now when I close this one, I will know like this is the container of my header. So in the end, you will close all of them and send your file to the developer or to the company that give you this task. Okay, so we did this. These are the selectors we talked about. So for example, here I have the main header. It has a class. It could have an ID as well. Header. So if I want to select this one, I will say hashtag header dot main header. So I'm more specifying the header. For the CSS selectors, there is something called the priority of the selectors. So the weak one is the element name. So if I said header, and then I said after it, I said main header, and then I said hashtag header. Which is the strongest now? The last one, because it's the ID. The ID is the strongest, then the class, then the name of the element. Always use class, but remember this one because it's very important. And if I said after this main header, I don't know actually what would happen, but we will try it. So, background, red, blue, gray, black. What are we selecting? It didn't work. I don't want to spend time on this, but this is the main topic. For the color, there is something for the color. We are saying red. So there is red and there is other types of colors. There is something called hex or hexadecimal. Hex colors. the hex is with hashtag, you have 3 sets of colors. So you have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. It means black. And we end it with 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9.
F, 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 F.
Or F, F, F. You can use F, 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 F. It starts by 0 and ends with 9, but there is more 7 colors, so we use A to F. Okay, so let's have an example. There is RGB and there is hex. So the difference is if I said, I have my Pika. So for example, I have these colors. Like if you have a Mac, you will use some app like that to organize your colors for the projects. On Windows, there is alternative, I think. But for example, I have a project like that. I will have my colors. So there's the name of the color, which we don't use. I'm using it just for presentation because it's fast to write red. And there is the hex color, and there is the RGB. The RGB, you specify the R, the G, the P. Red, green, blue. And from this combination, you get the color. You don't need to really understand them, but just remember that there is 3 types of colors. How do we? There is a fourth. So if I say RG, P, and then I said 150 and 30. So I will have this color. What if I wanted to be transparent? RGBA. A for transparent. So I will put like that, and the transparent is not a whole number, it's 1, it means 100%, and we have 0, 0%. And between them, there is, you can put quantum or put, and then 5, 2, it means 20%. So I say 3 and save. So it's 30%. Today we have to learn more about the inspector. So if you have any website, on Chrome, if you click on any item, there's the guy. Let's go to PPC, this controversial. Little bit better. So if we go here, so if I want to change this item, for example, I will right click, then inspect. So it will select this item on HTML, and I can play with it. So if I say there is the color,
Can you remove that mobile?
so there is this value. If I deleted it,
You are on mobile.
oh, just a sec. Why are you too slow, my friend? Okay, so if I inspect here, you can search in the filter. So you have many elements to play with in the end. There is the DOM. You will use them in the future when you start with the JavaScript, but for now we need just a CSS or styles. So you will have more than one CSS applied to this item. In the end, as we said, or on the right here, you will have the model box or box model for CSS. We will talk about it a little bit now. But here you can search. So I want to change the color. So I will say color. There's many items you wouldn't find because there is 2 values. It's called initial and inherit. Initial, it means it will put the default color for it, so it's defined at the first of the CSS. And inherit means it will inherit or take the value of its parent. So there is this. So there is a parent, and inside one of these parent, there is a color setted, like color, for example here gray. It will be color gray, so you cannot change it. But there's this element style, so it override any style. So if you say color red, what's this one? Okay, this is the color. So if we say, you can say red, and when we say red, there's this button. You can click in on it and see the hex of it. You can click here to see the RGB of it as well. So if I want to see it transparent, I will say quantum 5. And you can visually play with it with this slider. The hex is a set of 3 double of colors, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And the RGB is a set of 3 colors. This is the simple thing you need to understand, like just for now. This one, this is for more specificity. So I have a header of main header, and I have an H1 inside it with the color of brown. So if I have more than H1 and I want to specify just this one, I would say header with the class of main header, and I want to have the H1 inside it with the class of brown. Reset style. For HTML in general, there is a default style for all the elements. For example, the margin and the padding has a default value of 10 pixels or something. So when we start styling, we need to remove all of these styles. What we use usually is we get a reset CSS file. So there's many reset CSS files. And you can use any of them. When you get the reset file, you put it inside your project, and you start with putting it here before our style. So I will have a reset here, file reset.css. This reset removes all the padding, all the margin from the default, so you have more control on your website. So if you ever you are styling and there is more margins, there is more padding things, that's because there is a default CSS styling for our pages.
We have
And,
to declare this from the beginning.
Yeah.
We have to declare this from the beginning, the body,
You have, what do you mean?
to reset
Yeah.
the style from the
So-
beginning. So
It's in the beginning because you need to override these styles with your styles. So CSS is overwritten. So at first we set this reset, so we override the default values. Then here in our style, we start overwriting this one and the default HTML. So for example, what we do, for example, at the first of the file, this body, so we say something like star. You know what's the star selector? It selects all the items. So every item on the page, we select it with the star. We can use as well, for example, header, star. So we select all the items inside the header. So we select a star and the body and HTML, and we say margin 0 and padding 0, and there is something called box sizing, border box. We will talk about it now in 2-3 minutes. So now we are like resetting all the margins and the padding. Without this one, there is a margin around the page.
Why we doing this reset thing? Does anyone know like why we're doing this?
Just to be adaptable for each browser or device.
Oh yeah, because like every browser has its own default like margins and paddings. They have like their own like if you see if you see in the Google Chrome it has different. If you see in the another Firefox it has different. So we need to reset that to make our website like look same exactly same on different browsers. So we use reset.
So for example, here there were no margin 0, so the whole thing in the middle, but we put the margin 0, it's on the left. This is what, because there is a default margin here. So it's better to have control over your page, not give it to the browser or to the HTML, because browsers has different things. You need to have the control instead of giving it to multiple browsers. I will post a reset file on the Slack after this.
And also like why he used the reset file in the beginning, like before his own style class.
To reset his own stuff.
Is it good?
It is important to reset the page before you start.
Yeah, he has put like up the reset, then he put main.css below.
So if I have a color red here and I have a color blue here, what would be the item color? The blue one.
So I was telling you in the past you have to put your CSS below down.
The order of your CSS is very important because the end or the next element or style will override the first one. The end one have stronger than the first one. This one applies here and in JavaScript, but it has some different styles in JavaScript. Divs, we use divs for styling. That's what we use divs for. So for example, here I have an article. No, I have a header. And if I want to style the header to be, so there is this header. There's no styles for the header. So if I said padding 30 pixel, so I have a padding. But if I want to style more than that inside it, if I want to put this one somewhere and this one somewhere, and what we have done here, and this is the correct way, is to put, so imagine this file without the div. So I put a div to wrap these things and say these things should be on the left and the other div should be on the right. And this is the right way to use divs. If I have another file or I want to take this one out, so I can put it here, make a div and say bottom and put it inside it, then I will style it in another way and put it on the bottom of the page. We will talk more about divs, but it's coming by practice. Whatever I said about divs, you will use them more and more and more, because it's easier to use them than saying header, nav, and this stuff.
And div is block element, and there is another called like styling element called for inline element, and that is span. Yep.
Span element.
We're gonna use that a lot.
We will talk about it now on Flexbox because we will use display. So we will say display flex or block or inline. Pseudo classes, you understand them a little bit. So you can put a hover effect. So you have an element, but you don't want to style it now. Pseudo means you want to style it later. When do I need to style it? I want to style it when the mouse comes over this element. So I will say hover. There is link, a link you don't never visit. So there's different links. So when you say for the link, when the link is visited, when someone click on the link, I want to have the visited link to be read. So people, when they come back to your website, they know that they have visited these links. Active is when you click on the element, the period you are clicking. So that's the difference between them.
Can you
Let's
show
go.
an example?
So I will go back to this one because there is buttons. So there is a button here. Now it's hover. I put my mouse over it. So this is the hover effect. When I click on it while I'm clicking, like before I remove my hand, this is the active because it's active. When I remove my hand, it will be visited. So this is the 4 sections or status of the file. If we go to the inspect, we will see it better. So I have this button. You can see these pseudo classes here in the hover. So I will say hover.
Can
Can
you
you
zoom
see?
it a little bit?
So this is the hover state. Can you see there is this CSS styling comes. So without hover, it's like this. When I say hover, this CSS styling comes to the page. It's a search container. So as I said, there is this class, the whole search container, and there is inside it this. That's how we select. So search container, there is a form. I wanna select the button search, and the hover of it, the hover effect should have background of this color, and transform scale like it's scaling more than the size. So transform has many other values. We cannot talk about them all, but what we use, like rotate, for example, it will rotate the element. Scale, it will scale it up and down. Rotate Y, Z, skew, scale. Translate, it means move, so I want to move it up or down. These ones, you need to discover them by yourself. So if you just say CSS transform, you will go here and see. For example, there is rotate, 20 degrees, skew. Let's try this one, so you will see it live. So instead of having translate Y, I want to have it rotated 20 degrees. So now when I hover over it, it will be rotated. Can you see the effect? So if example, scale, we have used it, skew. So we go to hover again to change it. We delete this one. Okay, what if I'm not deleting? Can you see this one, the last one, is overwriting the others. So if I disable this one, the second one will be enabled. If I disable this one will be enabled, but this one wouldn't be enabled, this one. It's the same, you don't need to read about it now. But that's it. The last one will be applied. So now when I put, it's skewed like this. There is the active. So if I said the active, it will be like red. So this is the active of it. We didn't use visited or focused, but that's it.
Is there any order we need to put that?
In the end, you don't have to put order on the CSS on these hover effect or pseudo effects because they are not rewriting each other. Everyone has something to do with each motion you do, for example.
No, in any order we need to put that, like first link, then visited, hover, active.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, this will matter.
Okay, we'll talk about something called position in CSS. Position is very important. Like if you don't know position, you cannot make a layout. Because the thing with HTML that I have a lot of HTML elements here. How to position them on the page. This is the most important thing in CSS if we talk about it. So the most important two positions, we have something called relative and we have something called absolute. These ones are somehow different, but they are positions. There is other positions comes to the mind, but they doesn't matter because they are easy to understand. We start by relative. Okay. So we have a page and we have elements inside it. And there is an element located somewhere. If I wanna take this element from the whole layout, but without changing the space around it. So I wanna keep its space inside it. Let's see it on purpose. So there's this exercise. I will do it, then you will do it. So what I have here is an article, and inside it there's h1, h2, p tag, and there is inside this article there is an aside. You can call it a div, an aside, and inside this aside there is elements. So I want to position this stuff. So for example, here I have this whole. This is the whole page. This is the article. Inspect. So this is the whole body. This is the article. And inside the article we have h1, h2, p tag, and aside. Here image, h3. So what we are going to do now is I want to put this one on the left side. So this line would be here, this line would be here, and the circle would be out. This is the designer, what they designed for us, and we have to do this task. This one, I want to take it out to be like out of the whole box as well. So if I went to this aside, at first we will see the article. What's the position of the article? It's not set. Position. No position. Body.
What is the default
No
value
position.
of position? Does anyone know? Default value of position. Static. Static. Yeah.
So when we say position, if we want to say what's the possibilities? So we have absolute, we have fixed, inherit, initial, relative, static, sticky, unset. Unset means there is no position, which we don't use. Sticky, we will come back to it. Static means it takes the place in the page order. So for example here, I have this one, the H1, and then the H2. So the H2 will just locate, we are talking vertically, it will be located after the H1 because in the HTML it's located like that. So if I click on this and slide it here to be after it, so it will be located over it. Now if I said for the H1, if I said position relative, nothing changed. If I said position absolute, something changed. What's the difference? Actually they are the same, but there is main difference. So if I say relative, it's here, absolute, it's here. Can someone tell me what's the difference you see?
After using absolute, we can give the text front of another
Yeah. Yeah, because when we set it to relevant, it takes this place. So the element, it goes out of the whole layout. This is called layout. It goes of the whole layout, but its position or its place, it keep it. So the other elements wouldn't take its place. I will show you why it's important now. But for absolute, when I say absolute, it goes out and the position of it, it's deleted. Can you see when I put my mouse on it? There's just the item. So if I said I want to delete this one, let's go to the S side. So if I said for the S side, position, absolute. So it went out of the whole layout and HTML deleted the position of it. There is no existence for it. So if you think about it like, do I have papers?
It's the same with navbar, and when you start to scroll, if you want to have the navbar and the front part and the scrolling in the back part, you are using this type of position. No?
No, I'm using fixed for this one. It's a little bit.
Yeah,
This
you
is
can
our
do like
layout.
similarly.
Okay, so this is our layout. This is the same, and we have this one as this one. And this is sticky paper. If I said relative, I will take it out, but there's no pen. But the space behind it, so this one has a space, which is, let's say, this box. I said relative, I took it out, but I kept the space. So no other elements will collapse, will take its place, because I said
Projection.
relevant. What is
Projection. The
Yeah.
projection of the object is staying the same
That's
without
it.
being fulfilled with the
Can
other
you see the
elements.
shadow? This is the shadow. So if I said relative, it will keep the shadow of it. No one will take its place. If I said absolute, I just made it like that. So it's here, but without any shadow. So the other elements will take its place. So if I said here, position, I'm talking about the S side now, about this box. If I said position, absolute, so I take it out, then I start playing with it, where I want to locate it. So how do we do that? By defining there is top, bottom, right, left. So I would say top, 0.
Okay.
Where is it now?
See the button.
Reference on the top.
Okay, if I want to put it on the right, what do I say? Right? 0? So it's on the right. Bottom. So it's on the bottom. So I took it from here and I can play with it. I can put it anywhere I want. This is when I say absolute. Okay, what if we said relevant? So position, relative. Top, 0. Nothing happened. Right, 0 as well. Can you see the difference? Because it's relative. It has its place as well. It's not taking all out of the layout.
So what is different with fixed and relative?
Between?
Fixed and relative.
Okay, so when I say, let's say body, high, 3000 pixels. No, not 300, 3000 pixels. So I have a long body now, okay? So I will have the S side. Now I can move it. If I said like position relative, if I say position absolute, it will be moved as well. But if I say position fixed, it will be fixed on this position. It wouldn't move at all. This is what we see in advertising. So when you go to our website or Facebook, for example, there is something fixed. So this one, when I go down, it will be here all the time. It wouldn't move. There is fixed. I have seen a homework with fixed.
Yeah, you can use this fixed on navbar. Yeah.
The nav bar would be fixed or sticky. We will talk about the sticky. Sticky is when you want an item to be in a certain position after scrolling. So the fixed is when you put an item to be fixed, it will be in the same. Let's try another one, the H1. If I say position fixed, it will be here all the time. Let's refresh. This is for the fixed. The fixed is easy. High 3000 pixel. So what's the sticky? So I want to say this aside. I want it to be position sticky. It doesn't do anything.
Stick, because it's stick.
Yeah, but it's the same as the fixed. There is two are the same. There is fixed and sticky, absolute and relative. The sticky is the same as fixed, but you have to define the top, right, bottom, anything. So when I say 10 top 10 pixel, so I want it to be fixed when it comes to 10 pixels. It didn't work. No, this is fixed. Position sticky, top, padding, color. I'm not sure why it didn't work, but I will try to fix it in the break now. But usually sticky, when I said this sticky, and I have to define the top. So if I said top 10 pixel, so it will scroll, but when it reaches the 10 pixels, it will be sticky here. It wouldn't be moving anywhere. You can see it in Facebook. You can see like the sticky and the other things. So for example, this header, this one is fixed, and this one is fixed because they are not moving. Can you see this one? There is a sticky in it. So if I go like that, no, yeah. So I will go down, down, down. Can you see how it sticks when it got 0%? It scrolls to an
It's because of it's not related to the body.
is it?
Yeah, it needs to be related to the body.
Yeah, but this one position sticky.
But
It should be, the body should be relevant. Position relative.
no. I mean,
No.
aside it is directly.
The
It
aside
should
is
be
inside the article.
Yeah, I mean it should be outside the article.
Okay.
You need to put this.
Maybe you can try W3 scoop
Yeah.
and then relate it to the position and do
You can just put down.
This works well.
It's because it's not.
So yeah, it was because it was inside the article.
So it takes like we'll learn about that because it's like more complicated.
Margin. So top 300 pixels. Can you see what I mean? Now it's like that, but I said sticky, top 10 pixels, so it scrolls until it reaches the 10 pixels I defined. If I said 0 pixels, so it will stick to the top. This is the sticky.
It didn't work before because it was relative to the what was that?
To the article inside.
Yeah, article inside. It should be relative to the body to work that.
Okay, let's try to fix this one now. So if I want to move the items inside this box, I need something. I need something called relatively absolute. So as you see, the relative, we take it out of the box, but we keep its value. Absolute, we take it out and we remove its value. In the relatively absolute, we have to have a box called or positioned relative, and the elements inside them, we move them by applying absolute position. So the as side, if I say position relative, or the image, I want to move the image to the corner, we said. So if I said for the image position absolute, it will go like that. If I say top 0, left 0, it goes there. Why? Anyone knows?
Default
relative to
the main
Body.
It's relative to the first parent with the position relative. So I have this image and its parent. If I go to the us side, the position is unset. So its position is not relative. So if I set it to relative, it will be relative to it. But now if the parent of the absolute item is not relative, it will be absolute to the whole page.
by default is going to the first parent, which is
Yeah, so the first parent is this. Okay, let's try. If there is relative, it will be here. What if the article is relative? Position relative. So it's now relative to the article. Why? Because this image will say absolute. So absolute, I'm taking out, and it should be relative to something, to positioning it. So I want to be relative to this box to be positioned in order or inside it. So this image, it will go to the first parent. It will see the position. If it's not relative, it will go to the parent of this parent, which is the article. If it's relative, so it will be positioned inside it as absolute. If this one as well doesn't have, so it will go to the whole body. I know, not easy, but
Yeah, we have to practice.
in practice. Okay, so now we go back to what we want to do. We want this one as absolute. So if I said like it's absolute, I took it out from the whole layout and then I start positioning it. So I will say like, for example, right 0, left 0. So nothing works now. Why? Why it goes to the whole page?
To change the box, blue box to position relatives.
You mean the S side?
Yes, this
Oh.
position that
So I want to position
this to
I want to position this one to the S side. So the S side, I will say position relative. So now I'm positioning this image inside this one, inside this box. So I will say top 0, left 0. How can I put these lines on this line?
Yeah, minus.
That would be nice. What should I write?
Minus.
Left minus something.
10.
Left minus
I don't know, you need to try it.
10 pixel, 15 pixel. Top minus 15 pixel. It's too much. Minus.
You can just decrease. Yeah. Try.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, now the text, we cannot see it. So what can we add to see it, to give it a space? Can we see? This is the text. We have these box model elements to play with to give it a space to be more readable. So I can use
Padding.
padding. Where I want to move it from the top. So I will say padding top 5 pixel, for example, or 20 pixel.
Yeah, that will give some. It will give a path that if we want to move it, we should use a margin.
Margin top 20 pixel. What's the difference? So if we see here, which do you think it's more correct to move items?
Inside to move a margin.
I want to move items.
Margin.
This is correct. If you want to move the items, you use margin. If you want, because the padding is something from the item. So if I said here,
Background color, maybe.
let's say background red. This is the margin. If I say padding, in the future it will be like 10 pixel. So it's something from the item, the padding. It's depending on the item. The margin, we use it to move or make space between items. The padding, we use it to give more breadth, more space to the text. So if I want to have this one as a button, I will use the padding instead of the margin. So if I said like margin 50 pixel, I'm just giving it space around it. But usually we use padding. So you say padding 30 pixel, 100 pixel.
Too much.
Yeah, this is too much. Okay, about the position. Now we need to position this pocket to be here. Like half of it inside the box, half of it out the box.
You should do.
What should we do? A step by step.
You need to find.
Yeah.
That's a relative absolute.
What should be relative? What should be absolute?
The
Bottom.
inside one will be relative. The out-
This one should be relative
Yeah.
to what?
Oh, it seems to
Any other ideas?
We can use the bottom as an apple and
Yeah.
the box of sauce as a relative.
Why?
we can- because we don't want to be bottom inside of the blue box.
No.
We wanted this bigger box.
Okay, so if I said for this button position absolute and I want to put it on the right down, right? So I say right 0, it goes this way. Why?
because it's
Because you
relative
use
to the.
absolutely out.
It's relative now. When you say absolute, it's relative to its parent. So when you want to move something and it goes out of your box, Just go to its parent. Its parent is aside. What's the position? There's no position. It should be what? Relative. The parent is relative, the child is absolute. So if I said position relative, so it will be this one will be located instead of the whole box, it will be located just inside our box because our box is relative and this item is absolute. If I say left 0, it will be on the left. Okay, let's see if there is something in the presentation. Elements around relatives stay where they would normally appear. So here I have these elements. If I want to take this out without affecting the elements around it, I will say position relative, nothing change. Elements will change if I set it to absolute. We defined it by top left bottom. Yeah, it's the same. The absolute is like relative, but we take it out of the box and the things around it will take its place. It completely removes an item from the normal flow. So you have a flow, you have elements. So if we see the HTML, you have these elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I want to take this one out of the whole flow and put something inside it, I will say position absolute. So I took it out of the flow. Now I can play with it. I can say bottom 0. So it's in the bottom. We cannot see the bottom now. Top 0. So it's on the top. I feel it confusing. I know. I know. It took me so much time to understand. I'm trying to focus in it now and give it a lot of time because it's confusing. It's
and
not.
it's very, very important. Like you need to understand.
But
this
these examples, I will give it to you to practice now. Then we go with you like one by one to understand it. Relatively absolute positions. So I have a relative. So I have the whole browser. I have an item inside it. I should, if I want to move the things inside this item, I don't want any item inside it to go out. I mean inside it in the tree of HTML. So here, when I say inside, I mean aside. Inside it there is image h1. If I want to move any of these elements, but I don't want them to go out of the box. I want them to be relative to this box. So the h1 now, if I said top 0, nothing happened. Why?
Because it's not related to anything.
No, it's because it's not position absolute. If you want to move something with top, bottom, right, left, it needs to be absolute or relative. So if I say position absolute and top 0, it goes up there. Okay, if I want to put this, the top should be this line, this box line, instead of the whole page. What should I do? Help me. Okay, so what we say, like the h1 is position absolute and the top of it is 0. The top of it now, its parent should be relative. What's the whole page? This is the whole page. What's this item in the page? So if you go in the inspector now, it's the body, right? But I don't want the top to be in the body. I want it to be inside this article. What should I do?
So article should be relative.
Yeah. So if I said for the article position relative, so anything inside it, if it has the position absolute, and it has the top 0, it will be inside the article. Okay, now the H3, if I want the top of it to be this box, not this box. What should I do again?
This box should be related.
Again, if I go to this box and say position relative, we go down. I want to put a star on you, but I don't have.
If
So
like
that's it.
if any box has an absolute, then it will look going for like a relative. If its parents has relative, then it will be relative to that. If it doesn't have, it will look above. Then it goes up till the body. So
Okay, fixed position is when you put fixed position on anything, it will be fixed in the same place you put. So if I have this image, for example, when I scroll, I want it to stay here all the time. We use it usually on the navigation. You know, like when you navigate, go down, the navigation stay here. So on Facebook, for example, when you go down, the navigation stays here. So if I want to keep it here, I will go to the item. I'm doing something called development in the browser. That's what we do all the time. That's how I work. I don't go here and start working on CSS and then go back and see what's happening. We open, you have this item now, you want to play. What I do is I start work here. So I will say, and if there is no defined selector, you will go to the something called element style. So it's this element, I want to style it. So I will say position fixed. So now when I go down, it will be fixed here. Okay, what if I say position sticky top? It wouldn't be sticky because you didn't define where to be sticky. 0. So it will be stick to the 0 of what? Of the parent.
it works similar
Just-
like absolute.
Just what's the parent now? This one. So when this box go, can you see this box? Okay, anyway, this is the sticky, this is the fixed. Fixed and sticky are easy. The other things we have absolute, we will come back to it. Relative, we will have another exercise on it now. Static, it means it's the default. It's in the flow. So if you have in the HTML H1, H2, P tag, all of them are static. So they are just coming after each other vertically.
And you have put like static, then do like top 10, 20, then it won't work. Like top, like left doesn't work in static.
Top, left, right, bottom works only on absolute and relative.
And also there is like a Z index
Yeah.
that also only works on relative and absolute.
So for the page, there is, let's say, for the axis. So we have this line is vertical. So normally when we put elements on the page, they will be vertically after each other. We have as well the horizontal line, which is left, right. This is the horizontal. So we have X and Y, and we have another dimension. It's called dimensions in the design. There is the X, which is this. So we have this and this. So we have vertical, horizontal, and we have the depth of it. So these elements, the browser see them as layers. So there is this one. I can move this one to be behind this box. I didn't make a slide for it, but it's called NTX CSS. Let's see if there is like visual representation for it. like that. So we have our elements and they are Z position. So this one is front of the other one. There was a website to
You can write just X, Y, Z direction.
NTX representation website. There is a website show you the other websites.
It's an article.
If we talk like okay, like on Photoshop and W3 as well.
Yeah.
ZNTX W3. So we have this item. This is the vertical line of them. This is the horizontal, and there is the Z. So there is this one, and there is the other one. So this one is behind it. This is the Z. So if we say the style, if we see the style,
Yeah, you need to zoom again.
on the HTML we have H1, which is this. We have image, we have B. The image is position absolute. I take it out of the layout. Left 0, top 0, and Z index -1. So I put it before it. What if it's 2? It will go in front of them. I want it front or back. Okay. What if I say p tag Z index equals 3?
It doesn't work. Why? Because it is static. The position is static. You need to make relative or absolute.
So it's about the position. I need to take it out of the layout, then play with it. So if I
No, I mean property of P. It needs to be.
So now the image, why I can move it right, left, why I can move it on these positions. I can move it right, left, up, down, and on the Z, because it's absolute. So I can put it on the left, on the top, and I can play with the Z. I can put it in front of them, in the back of them. If I want to move the P tag, I want to have it absolute. And now I can play with it. So now I'm putting this as 3. So if 3 is over, this one is 2, and this one is the default, which is 1.
If the position is relative, you can't do that.
If I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can do that.
Can
Yeah,
You can do that as well.
yeah. You can't do it static. Only on static. You
Yeah.
can do.
Relative and absolute are the same, but one remove its place and all the other items will take its place, which is the absolute. The relative, we take it out like that. We take it out, but its place, nothing will collapse, nothing will take its place. This is the Z index we were talking about. So we have the browser window. We have the minus Z index, which is behind it. We have the Z index, as we said, when you say 1, then 2, it will hide some of it. This is very important when you do some kind of menus or talking Arabic now. You got me, man. Okay, we will do the other exercise, which you will do
Yeah, after break.
just say
after break, but I need to say what is it.
But this is really important. This positive, absolute, and relative is really important. Like it.
That's how we can make it now at the exercise.
So
So this is the CSS position tool. I posted it on Slack. You will open it. Not now, after the break. So you will have, there is NDX and CSS. It has an article and there is image, H1 and P tag inside it. It's just few files. So that's it now. Can you see? What we need to do is to make the whole box smaller. This image is huge. We make it smaller at first. And then this image, I want to make it relative to this box, not the whole body. And I wanted to take it out and in the middle. So it will be a circle here, half of it out of the box, half of it inside it. I hope you can do it, but we will try to do it. So at first you will go not to the code editor. You will open it on your Chrome and you will go to the inspect. Can you follow up with me for a minute? And then you will start playing here. Don't go to your code editor. Finish your styling here. So for example, width, something. After you do this, you look at the name of the element. So for example, it's image. You copy the style you have made. And you go to your code editor, to the styles. You go to the end. So I will say image. What styles do I have here? The width 200, for example. I will put it here. And now when you refresh, it will be like that. But it's absolute already, so yeah. After you finish this one, we will make the other one as well, but it would be your homework, with your homework. Okay. Give me questions before we go to the Yeah.
Is this responsive?
Not yet. Nothing responsive yet. The responsive is the end of this class. We will talk about it.
Yeah, I understand that you change its places to the left and the right, absolute to the object. So I mean, is this responsive, or we want to make it responsive later?
We will make it responsive later. Now we are not talking about any responsiveness. We are just like moving the elements. We are like positioning the elements. We are not talking about the responsive now.
In the end, for each view, you will have a style. So for your desktop, you will have styling. For your mobile app or mobile site, you will have styling. But for now, it's not.
Yeah, when you have to use the relativity, all the information that you put in your code, it will be related to different kind of gadget we are using. Now you are writing all the code, and after that only one property, responsive. It's going to take all your code to adapt to the devices. Now it's ready?
Yeah. So now this one, like this code you are writing on the CSS will be applied to all of them, to iPad, iPhone, like on the phone, on the laptop, it's the same. Why? Because we didn't define a mobile style. But in the end, what we do, we style it for the desktop. Then we start saying, if the browser open this website on a mobile phone, instead, like for example, this button, instead of having it on the right and going out of the page because it doesn't make sense on the mobile, I want to make it on the bottom of the element or something. So you have different style for the mobile phone. Any other questions? No questions now, but nobody will do it.
Means everybody understand everything?
Yeah, that's what I get. Like when I say questions and nobody asks, I understand that you understand everything, and now when you do it, we don't need to help you now at all. Yeah, that's it.
That's something complex, so we are thinking.
It takes time.
Have to getting this out.
Talk about the I was talking about this order. Like it should be in order.
What do you mean?
Like this element should be in order to be effective.
No.
It should be because
Okay.
I know that. You can do that.
I'm not sure about it. I'm learning. A holder must come after a link and a visit.
I thought like you know that, so I asked this question to you.
Yeah.
You would explain it. It was like weird, but it's okay. Yeah, it should be in order. In process, it should be in order.
For this presentation, he sent us position CSS
I'm not sure. Like the whole logic
CSS
goes bad in my mind now because why it matters.